There are certain wars within the region that will not come to an end. From Ciudad Juarez to Cape Horn, the war on drugs continues to take over the region. This ongoing struggle has managed to involve nations like the United States, costing them funds and lives in what some call a losing game. Latin America, however, still manages to pay the ultimate price as the fight against drug cartels spills over, costing hundreds, if not thousands, of civilian lives. We plan to look at the war on drugs, both past and present, in an attempt to make sense of it all. Countries like Brazil, Colombia, and Mexico are just a few of those where drugs have transformed into a key industry, and whoever controls them controls the nation.
Pablo Escobar, infamous for being the most powerful man in the drug trade in Latin America, kicked off the drug war in the early 1980s when he started trafficking cocaine from Colombia by plane to Miami, Florida. But his rise to power and wealth started before that time, and even before his involvement with cocaine. It started with his business of trafficking marijuana, cigarettes, and alcohol. Chile was becoming the largest processor and exporter of cocaine by 1973, but President Pinochet at the time, who President Nixon of the United States helped bring into power, ended up shutting down 33 cocaine processing laboratories and arresting and then killing 346 of the drug dealers. One of these Chilean drug dealers escaped Pinochet's grasp, named Mateo Moreno, or Cockroach, and ended up being the one to introduce Escobar to cocaine and eventually partnered with him in beginning the mass production and trafficking of the drug. Cockroach, already having the expertise on the production of cocaine, was looking for someone to help him traffic the drug from Peru to Colombia and elsewhere. At the time, cocaine was already selling at the price of $10 per gram in Chile. When trafficking started from Colombia to the United States, namely Miami, in the early 1980s, different methods were used to conceal the cocaine during smuggling. The drug was sometimes hidden in bags of coffee beans and flour and within the bellies of fish being exported to the United States from Colombia. People, nicknamed mules, were also used to transport the drug. These people were paid to swallow plastic packets filled with cocaine and then fly across to the United States. This led to the deaths of many people, as sometimes the packets burst within them during travel, causing a fatal cocaine overdose. Eventually, Escobar chartered a small airplane to fly cockpits full of cocaine directly to Miami from Colombia. As cocaine gained popularity in the United States, the war on drugs commenced. Between 1979 and 1984, 3,245 people were killed in Miami alone. About the drug trade in Colombia back then, when Pablo Escobar was a big guy.
Well, not really around around the same time, but yeah, similar. So the context of the drug cartel in Colombia was a little bit different for my family and I, because we are from a different region. So
which region are you from?
Norte de Santander, which is the northern side of Colombia, in the border between Colombia and Venezuela. It's a very big city called Cucuta, Cucuta. Yeah, accent on the first U. So we're from that city, and we were like oblivious to whatever was happening in a closer zone, which is closely related to the narcotraffic area. So, and then. But when I was around 11 years old, we used to go with my mom to visit her grandmother, which she lives in an area called Catatumbo, is in the northern side of Colombia, like I said before. And that area is very well known for narco traffic. So we used to go there and see her farm with her coffee plantations, and some of her neighbors were cultivating or planting coca plants in the middle of their farm. So camouflage around their coffee, they had the green stuff being planted.
Wow.
So that's the relationship. And I remember going every year. The Avianca plane was taken down in the 80s. Like, I was a little kid, but still, like, I remember there was like a lot of commotion and stuff like that.
Wow.
So,
Crack cocaine is seen to rule the lives of the lower class in Brazil. Cracolândia is the common name given to places ridden with the drug. Here, residents are able to buy and publicly use crack cocaine, and over time, masses have migrated here due to the easy and constant flow of the drugs. Cracolândia is located between the business and cultural districts of São Paulo, and therefore acts as a constant reminder of the nation's glaring drug problem. Brazil is reported to have the highest number of crack cocaine users in the world, having recently been estimated at over 1 million users. Amid the release of this staggering statistic, and prior to the World Cup, the São Paulo provincial government under Fernando Haddad undertook Operation Braços Abertos, translated into Operation Open Arms. The optimistic project aimed at rehabilitating the inhabitants of Cracolândia by giving them shelter, employment, and other social amenities to better their lives, in the hope that they would abandon crack use. The endeavor was predicted to save taxpayers' money, usually used in the hospitalization of those same drug users, and instead invest those funds in their recuperation and reintegration back into society. Many, including the drug users themselves, wondered if this was a government ploy to hide the country's domestic issues prior to the World Cup, and then abandoned the project immediately after. Reflecting on this issue after the World Cup, it is clear to all that it was just a political plot to cover up the grave drug problem within the nation. São Paulo's inhabitants have returned to public drug use, and Cracolândia went back to thriving as well as it did before Braços Abertos. Drug use in Brazil is widely seen as a reflection of the inequality within the nation. A majority of the crack users are the poor, uneducated factions of the nation, while those who supply them are easily found anywhere within the middle to the upper classes. This addiction has continued to consume the lower classes of the nation and helps to maintain the power structure within the country. Brazil has had an active war on drugs for years, whether it is the trafficking of drugs within or outside the nation, or the use of drugs within its own borders. This, however, has largely become a business, leaving its negative socio-cultural and economic effects to be felt by the marginalized poor majority, while those in power reap from the enterprise.
In Mexico today, as in many other countries in Latin America, there is much widespread antagonism towards the police, as there have been innumerable cases of officers working with and even accepting bribes from drug cartels. It was found that 97% of the investigations that are carried out by the police are not actually fully investigated. The crime scene information is simply collected, and then that's it. The investigation does not continue, and no efforts are made to track down the killers. Only a few cases of the 3% that do have full investigations actually lead to charges or punishment. To give perspective to just how big this business of drugs has become in Mexico, it was estimated that about $40 billion are made by the drug cartels each year. The fact that most of this money is coming from the United States was actually the real incentive for the US government to begin their campaign against drugs. It was not the fact that thousands of people were being killed in the city of Miami, Florida, because of the drug trade, but because of the huge amount of money that was flowing out of the United States and into Latin America. As for the situation in Mexico, 60,000 people were murdered in the country alone since 2006, the year that the Mexican drug war officially started. Around 60,000 people were murdered in Mexico alone since 2006, the year the Mexican drug war officially started. And it has been estimated that 10,000 people were killed between 2008 and 2012. This number does not include the number of people who have died in other Latin American countries because of the drug violence. The cartels that are most dominant in western Mexico are the Sinaloa Cartel, Cartel de Jalisco Nuevo Generación, Gulf Cartel, and La Familia. The cartels dominating the eastern part of the country include Los Zetas and the Beltrán Lievas Cartel.
And so now we hear a lot of violence and almost as if the drug situation has totally moved up into Mexico. So how have you seen that shift happen?
Right. So that's what I think as well, right? Like, it's not like it has disappeared. Like, I think it has moved, the focus has moved away towards, like, towards Mexico. Exactly. That's how I feel things change. So the production still happens in Colombia, and some of that still happens there, but people in Mexico saw this gap of leadership, that it was there, and someone that needed to take charge of the business, and people say, okay, you can still send, this is how I see narco trafficking in Colombia now, you can still send the cocaine, but we'll deal with it now, and they're like the ones managing that from Mexico into the United States, which is one of the biggest consumers of cocaine in the world. So they're controlling the routes, international routes, because from Colombia, before they could manage and send those like big shipments of cocaine to like different islands like Jamaica or whatever. So now the Mexicans took over all those routes.
Con caña dulce el melao hierve la baila hasta amanecer. Habrá corrida de toros y por la noche fiesta y rumba. En Cali mira, se sabe gozar. En Cali mira, se sabe gozar.